Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Today we're going to be talking about Caspa. We're going to be talking about its price prediction. We're going to be talking about the Twitter account. And of course, we're going to be talking about a few other things. And of course, showing you the technical analysis. Now, first off, ladies and gentlemen, right? We can see, right? Caspa clearly changed his dynamic. I believe this is a community representative account. So here's the thing, right? I actually like that this has gotten switched up because now it is a lot more active. The biggest Caspa page is very, very active. And people kind of see this as the official account. To be honest, I thought it was the official account, but clearly it is not, right? And this is actually a good thing, right? Because there's going to be more reposts, there's going to be more posts in general, and there's going to be more awareness surrounding Caspa and its minor details and the things that people say, right? Which is what we love to see. So I actually do think this is a good change indeed. I actually think this is a fantastic change, and I am not really upset about this, right? I am not upset. We can see Caspa's, this page is at 248,000 followers. Anyways, let's look at some of the basics. Let's go and look at Caspa. We can see, ladies and gentlemen, we have 144 million volume, 2.26 billion market cap. And we can see, right, we are still not listed on the two biggest exchanges. And that's a good thing in my opinion. If you're racking 144 million volume and you're at 2.26 billion market cap, that does show that you don't even need these exchanges necessarily, right? You don't really need them. Now, I personally think there's going to be some kind of deal in the future made with Binance, made with Coinbase, probably from this compromise of the exchanges, because at the end of the day, they are still going to make money off of the volume, right? They're going to make money off of people buying and selling. So, like, there's no point not listing Caspa at the end of the day, right? There's no point not listing Caspa, but we will obviously have to see I'll see XT up there, L Bank, BigMart, Kraken, KuCoin. So a lot of big boys, a lot of big boys. Anyways, let's just jump right into the technical analysis. And we can see we have a few things drawn up. We have a lot of things drawn up, in fact. So let's break it down. Let's rewind from what happened last time, and let's just go over a few things. So we can see, ladies and gentlemen, that clearly I had this zone marked up, right? And we can see we did have this zone marked up over here at 7.4 cents, which probably was indicating that, hey, this is actually a very nice support. And you can obviously see, boom, 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 5 tick points, right? 5 tick points, 5 rejections off of this zone. And we can see we actually broke through it recently. And guess what? We tapped perfectly where our other zone was. I mean, you could even go watch the last Caspa video. These zones are from that video, right? We can see that we bounced off of the zone. We went to this zone at 9.2 cents, and now we have sold off. So the next thing is, well, what is going to happen, right? What is going to happen? Is this a big rejection? Are we going back to the downside? Or is this simply a pullback? Now, in my opinion, this is simply a pullback to go further up. Here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen, right? Something like Bitcoin has been breaking out tremendously over the last day or two. If you have been sleeping under a rock and you decided just to watch my Caspa video, then ladies and gentlemen, right, Bitcoin is at all-time highs at roughly 117,000, right? A little bit more, 117,500, roughly speaking. And here's the thing. It should be expanding consistently. But once again, it should be expanding consistently because, ladies and gentlemen, when you think about it, we actually have been kind of in this whole damn range for months since November, right? We were in a mini range over here, right? If we take another box, right? We were in this range, then we sold off, then we went back up, right? Then again, we made another range, and finally out of this one we broke out. So but the whole journey, right, the whole journey pretty much was from the middle of November, where we were kind of like at, let's say, 93 to 105k. We were there for many weeks. Then we had the whole thing, people panicking, us going back up, then again people not being too certain once price slows down. But we can see, ladies and gentlemen, that we did break out of this zone, And I don't expect for us to fall back, right? I don't expect for us to fall back. And if we did, then that would be very, very concerning. And that would mean something else that we'll discuss in a different video, more dedicated to Bitcoin, Ethereum, and altcoins, right? But look, ultimately, I expect Bitcoin to be doing well, which for me, that means Caspa should see a little bit of the winnings, a little bit of the pie. Now, here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen, right? Here's the deal, right? Even if Bitcoin goes up another 20,000, doesn't mean Caspa is going to go up 10 cents, right? Because it's still Bitcoin's show. It is still Bitcoin's show. You know, the reversals showing for altcoin season slowly coming here are still not here, right? They're still not here. Something like Bitcoin dominance, right? Even though it has been slowing down, it still hasn't crashed and broke structure. So there's no indication that altcoins, something like Caspa, are going to be eating very, very well, right? It doesn't show that. It does not show that. In fact, most likely we'll be bouncing off the 64% and making our final push towards the 70% before we will consistently get nice big pumps. Right now, for something like Caspa and many other coins, we're kind of just in the accumulation zone. We're kind of in the zone and in a moment where we are just looking to be building a foundation fundamentally, right? That means slow pushes. That means break, retest, right? Support, resistance. That means doing everything fundamentally. I do ultimately believe that Caspa will be fundamentally doing its thing, and we'll look into it into detail in a sec, but ultimately doing its thing fundamentally until we do get closer to all-time highs. And once we get to all-time highs, I think that's when, you know, altcoins are gonna let loose a little bit, right? And that's when we'll actually start seeing something very, very like something very similar to this, right? I feel like we're kind of in the stage where we're just looking to be recovering, right? We're looking to be recovering. We're looking to eventually be squished out to the upside and start pumping, 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 pumping. Okay, that is what I think is going to be happening with Caspa, not just Caspa, but with other coins. So when we break it down to the micro level, ladies and gentlemen, right here, 9.2 cents was a relevant zone, right? It was a relevant zone, and we can see that we tapped into it. I do expect a little bit of a pullback potentially. Shouldn't really go further down than I would say 8 cents, right? Maximum should be 8-cent pullback where we go maximum down to here, and then we make another attempt. But this time when we make an attempt, we probably will pull back just a little bit before we go higher and higher. And once we go higher, the next little relevant zone for me, ladies and gentlemen, is for us to be going upwards of 11 cents, right? Reclaiming this territory. That is what I believe is going to be happening with Caspa. Now, where's Caspa going to go ultimately at the end of this cycle? How high can it go? Some people were saying, you know, oh, I think it's going to go to $8 because of X, Y, and Z, which we'll discuss that in another video, what Caspa's maximum potential is. But in terms of a more conservative approach, that's a little bit realistic or even potentially underwhelming, I do think $1.50 should be your main target. We even see if we 10x from here, we would be at 22 billion market cap, 85 cents. If we 20x, we'd be roughly around 45 billion, more or less, but we would be around, you know, we would be pushing very, very nice numbers. We'd be like $1.70, right? Around $1.70. So for me, $1.50 is more than realistic. I know some people need to see it happen to finally believe it, but you know, if you wait that long, let's say to buy a coin, then you're going to miss the whole entire train. But that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys did enjoy, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.